Good morning. I would like to call this January 20th meeting of the Planning and Advisory Commission to order. If you'll please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You said January, not February.
Let's say February 20th meeting, not January. I guess I'm in opposition that we're already in 2019, sorry. I would like to remind those in the audience and those watching on television that this is the first hearing of any rezoning, text change, or special exception request brought before us today. Before we start hearing these cases, if you are in the audience and you have a cell phone, please check to make sure it's either silenced or off since we are being televised. We will first hear a reading of the staff report for the case by the planning staff and ask the applicant to provide a brief overview of the request. We will then give the opportunity for anyone in the audience to speak for or against that request or to ask any questions about the request. The commissioners will have any needed discussion on the case, and once a motion is made and seconded by the commission, a vote will take place and a recommendation will be rendered. The case will go back to the planning department for their independent recommendation. If a favorable recommendation is given, then the case is forwarded to the City Council with two independent recommendations. If the planning department makes a recommendation for denial, the applicant will have 10 days from the receipt of a letter stating the denial to notify the clerk of council that they are requesting to be placed on the City Council's agenda. The City Council of Columbus will hold a public meeting. It's called the first reading, and the said council shall consider the case, review PAC and Planning Department recommendations, and hear discussion on the matter. Council will make a final decision at a second public meeting called the second reading. As far as our minutes go, commissioners, you were given an opportunity to review the minutes that were sent out for from the January 16th meeting and the February 6th meeting. I don't know if anybody has any changes or anything that needs to be made to those, and if we don't, then we're going to submit those as approved, but I do want to take a moment to see if anybody has anything, and I don't see anything. So we will accept those as submitted. Thank you. All right, well, that will bring us to our first case, and this first case is REZN-01-19-0095. This is a request to rezone 0.89 acres of land located at 1147 6th Avenue. The current zoning is LMI, Light Manufacturing Industrial, and the proposed zoning is UPT, Uptown. The proposed use is apartments, office, warehouse. Ken Henson is the applicant, and this property is located in Council District 7, Woodson. Mr. Renfro, the staff report?
Yes, ma'am. General land use is consistent for planning area D. Current land use designation is mixed use. Future is high density mixed use. It is compatible with the existing land use. The property does not lie within the floodway and floodplain area. The developer will need an approved drainage plan prior to issuance of a site development permit if a permit is required. The property is served by all city services. Average annual daily trips will increase by 326 trips if used for mixed use. It will remain a level A. The site shall meet the codes and regulations of Columbus Consolidated Government for commercial usage. No school impact, no buffer requirements, no Fort Benning recommendation, no DRI recommendation. 30 property owners within 300 feet of the subject property were notified of the rezoning request. The planning department received no phone calls or emails regarding the rezoning. There's no additional information.
All right. Commissioners, are there any questions for Mr. Renfro regarding the staff report? All right. If the applicant will please come forward and state your name and address and just give us a brief overview.
Thank you. My name is Ken Henson.
Oh, we got to get his mic on. Let's check. We had a few issues in our audios. We've got somebody coming to help you. Oh, we got it. Okay.
I'm a little slow, but I think I got it.
That's okay. Hey.
I think when it says speak, that means that the mic is on. Okay, I'm Ken Henson. I live at 612 Broadway, and I'm here for the applicant 1147 LLC, which owns this property. That has multiple addresses. It's 1147 6th Avenue. I think it's 512 12th Street, and then it has an address off of the back on 5th Avenue. It's an irregular shaped piece of property. And it was the original Coca-Cola bottling plant that opened in Columbus around 1905, 1906. Then they added a warehouse off the back in the 20s, and TSYS has used it as a warehouse since the 1990s. So we hope to convert it to office, apartments, maybe a microbrewery under the new definition. So that's sort of what we're trying to do with that property. It's historic, and we hope to get historic tax credits on both structures.
Commissioners, are there any questions for the applicant? All right, I don't see. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this? I see no one. Anyone in the audience who would like to speak in opposition? I see no one.
No, I want to thank you for hearing this. I guess most of you know we had a little glitch yesterday. I want to thank John for bringing this forward. But after realizing we had this glitch, I looked at the application, and I should have attached more information. And I think the form can probably be improved. I think it ought to ask for multiple addresses. I think it ought to ask for a survey if there's one available. I think it ought to ask for the tax map and have the applicant circle and actually show on the map what property he owns and what's going to be rezoned. I think it ought to have a box to attach additional information that might be helpful. I think that would have avoided the glitch, and quite frankly, I should have attached all that, but it didn't.
Well, no, I appreciate the recommendation, and hopefully we can look into adding, that's a simple add to the application. I think that it would be helpful. Thank you.
And then the other thing is, I think it might be helpful if you sent out the staff report
To the applicant.
when they notify him of the date of the hearing. I think that, I've done a lot of rezonings, and sometimes when something goes awry, you realize, well, maybe there's some things that we can do to improve the process.
I do appreciate those recommendations, and I really think that's a good one to let the applicants have a copy of the staff reports. Hopefully, they can look at it and see if there are any mistakes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion? I asked that. I did ask the against. Mhm. But thank you, because you know how often I do forget those things. Do I hear a motion amongst the commissioners?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Bollinger.
In the case for REZN 01190095, request to rezone .89 acres at 1147 6th Avenue. Proposed zoning is uptown. Recommend this be approved.
And do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Davis, all those in, I'm sorry.
Should we also include, say, 512-6, just to be clear?
512.
Sorry, yeah, 512-12.
We should, yes.
Okay,
You should add that.
so,
To amend that to include 512 12th
straight,
Street.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brand.
Sorry.
No, thank you, and we did have a second.
Good point.
Yeah? Resecond, okay. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And it is unanimous, so we will submit that for approval. And thank you again for those suggestions. That's always helpful. All right, that moves us on to our next case, which is REZN-01-19-0016. And this is a request to rezone 0.77 acres of land located at 4620 Warm Springs Road. The current zoning is NC, which is neighborhood commercial. The proposed zoning is GC, which is general commercial. The proposed use is an electrician office. Donna Blankenship is the applicant, and this property is located in Council District 5, Crab. Staff report, please.
Yes, ma'am. General land use is inconsistent for planning area B. Current land use designation is general commercial. Future is light manufacturing and industrial. It is compatible with existing land uses. The property does not lie within the floodway and floodplain area. The developer will need an approved drainage plan prior to issuance of a site development permit if a permit is required. Property is served by all city services. Average annual daily trips will increase by 11 trips if used for building and construction trade use. The level of service will remain at the level B. The site shall meet the codes and regulations of the Columbus Consolidated Government for commercial usage. No school impact, no buffer requirements, no Fort Benning recommendation, no DRI recommendation. 35 property owners within 300 feet of the subject's properties were notified of the rezoning request. The planning department received no phone calls or emails regarding the rezoning. There's no additional information.
All right, thank you. Any questions, Commissioner, for the staff report? All right, if the applicant will please come forward and state your name and address and just give us a brief overview.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Donna Blankenship. My address is 5136 East Timberlear Court. That's Columbus 31907. And it's pretty simple. We've been in this location for 47 years under the neighborhood, but everybody around us has pretty much already upgraded to general, and we just want to be upgraded to general also.
All right. Commissioners, are there any questions for the applicant? No?
I don't know.
We got to turn you on. They're not automatically on today.
I don't know whether it's for applicant or staff, but are you non-conforming now? Is that why you're making the switch?
Not for our present, it's a building with 3 little suites in it.
Yeah.
And we've never needed to be general before, but
Okay.
fortunately, we are fortunate enough, this is the first time we've had a, nice,
Tenant,
big
yeah.
business that would like to rent one of our units, and we don't qualify. They wouldn't fit in under neighborhoods, so we need to, and I didn't realize that everybody around us is already general.
Okay,
So we
thank
just
you.
want to upgrade.
So I guess that raises one question. So you're not looking at redeveloping that property, you just
Oh,
want to make it
no.
available for another tenant?
That's right.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
Any other questions? All right, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this request? And I see no one. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak against this request? There is no one. Do I hear a motion amongst the commissioners? Mr. Kinner.
Okay, this is in relation to REZN 01-19-0016. I recommend approval of a request to rezone 0.77 acres of land located at 4620 Warm Springs Road. The current zoning is neighborhood commercial. The proposed zoning is general commercial.
And do I hear a second? Second. All right, Mr. King. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And that that's unanimous. So it will go forward with a recommendation for approval. And thank you for coming today.
Thank you, appreciate it.
That brings us to our third case, which is REZN-01-19-0155. This is a request for a text amendment to amend the text of the Unified Development Ordinance, or the UDO, in regards to Chapter 3, Chapter 13, and Table 3.1.1 microbrewery. Mr. Renfro.
Yes, ma'am. The request is to amend the text of the UDO in regards to Table 3.1.1 microbreweries and microdistilleries, Chapter 3 alcohol beverages, Section 3.21 microbreweries, Section 3.2 microdistilleries, and Chapter 13 definitions to read as follows. As far as the table, 3.1.1 microdistilleries and microbreweries would be permitted in UPT, CRD, GC, and LMI.
All right, thank you. Any questions, commissioners, regarding the request? Or the staff report, I'm sorry. No? Yes.
I raised that question considering the wording of paragraph, I think it was 3.22. Could you just comment on that, please? I'll just comment on what my comment was. It seemed that maybe there was a typo in this section 3.22. It's titled microdistilleries, but then the text talks about microbrewery.
Yes, sir. Those are just typos, and microbrewery that falls under that section should all be changed to microdistilleries, and that can be updated in the staff report.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. Kinner. Any other questions, commissioners? All right, if the applicant will come forward and state your name and address and give us an overview.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Brian Solito, address 1200 6th Avenue. I'm the Executive Vice President of Economic Development at the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. I also represent this morning the Development Authority of Columbus, the entity appointed by City Council to help recruit new companies and new businesses to Columbus, and also work with existing companies on expansions, all in the sake of job creation and capital investment. We are working with a company who is interested in locating a brewery or microbrewery, as the kind of the common parlance is, in Columbus. We've been working directly with the planning department. At first, we thought this was a zoning check the box. Let's make sure we have the right zoning in place. Come to find out, we need a text amendment to the UDO to even allow for a brewery to operate in Columbus. And so this request is essentially to pave the way not only for this company, but for also for other companies and other breweries that may want to locate in Columbus. Microbreweries or breweries, as you may have read or experienced in other jurisdictions across not only this state of Georgia, but also throughout the Southeast, is big business. In fact, it's brewery tourism is even a term. So, having the second largest city in Georgia, we don't have a brewery here, and some would question why don't we? And up until this point, we're not allowed through the UDO to have this type of business operate. So the request is for an amendment to the text of the UDO to pave the way for breweries.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions for Mr. Solito?
Just to confirm, there are no microbreweries in town now? None of the places downtown, say, do their own brewing?
Sure. I might just comment. I too have this has been a learning process for me, and when you may think of the Cannon Brew Pub on Uptown, on Broadway. They are a restaurant kitchen that also happens to brew beer. So this would be truly a brewery without the restaurant component.
That's the biggest difference. Yeah. A good question, though. Any other questions? All right. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this request? I see no one. Anyone who would like to speak against it? Oh, do I hear a motion?
As the resident millennial interested in this, I would like to make the motion, if I may. In the case of REZN-01-19-0155, a request to amend the text of the Unified Development Ordinance in regards to Table 3.1.1, microbreweries and microdistilleries, Chapter 3, alcoholic beverages, Section 3.21, microbreweries, Section 3.22, microdistilleries, and Chapter 13 with the definitions to read as presented in the staff report. I move that we approve the text amendment.
And do I hear Mr. Davis? All right, we have a second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It is unanimous, so we will submit that for approval. And I just have to say, I'm happy to see this come forward. If nothing else, really from the tourism standpoint, it does give us one more attraction for people to make a vacation in our community and put dollars into it. I think that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That brings us to our next, which is REZN-02-19-0219. This is a request for a text amendment to amend the text of the Unified Development Ordinance, or the UDO, in regards to Chapter 3, Chapter 13, and Table 3.1.1, personal care homes. Mr. Renfro.
Yes, ma'am. This is a request to amend the text of the UDO in regards to Table 3.1.1, personal care homes, Chapter 3, Section 3.2.50, personal care home type 1, Section 3.2.51, personal care home type 2, Section 3.2.73, foster care home, Section 3.2.74, group foster home, and Chapter 13 definitions read as follows. Under Table 3.1, foster care homes would be permitted in the following: HIST, RE10, RE5, RE1, RT, SFR1, SFR2, SFR3, SFR4, RMF1, RMF2. Group foster homes would be allowed with a special exception in RMF1 and RMF2 and permitted in RO and GC. As far as additional information, this text amendment change is to better align Columbus with the state codes as well as the fire codes.
Did I read, I said Table 3.1.1, am I wrong?
No, no, ma'am.
Okay. I just heard a lot of 3.2s in there. So
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioners, any questions regarding the staff report? Mr. Dudley?
Yes, just wanted to make sure that what are going to be called foster care homes and group foster homes, they were considered, or they're currently considered part of personal care homes type 1 and 2? Or personal care homes type 1,
As
2,
of
and
right
3?
now, all of that is incorporated into personal care home.
Okay.
With the new state definition and the way the fire code is written, we're trying to break that apart, so each one is its each individual case.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Renfro? Mr. Kenner?
This is just a clarification of this whole thing, okay? I read this and then I got into it deeper and deeper, so I just had just a couple of questions. It seems like when we're all done with this, we'll have a personal care 1 for up to 6 adults. We'll have a personal care 2 for 7 to 18 adults, okay? And then we're going to have foster care for up to 6 children on 24-hour service. And we're going to have group foster care from 7 to 15 children for minors and juveniles. Now, it doesn't say 24-hour care. I'm just curious as to why it doesn't say 24-hour care. And then it also talks on this group foster with or without meals. So why is all that? I mean, it would seem if you would have to have 24-hour care if some 14-year-old kid had the flu, somebody would have to be there for them.
And that should be in there. The state definition includes the 24-hour care for that as well.
It does, okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, the other thing I looked at here, it said in the UDO, the definition of a child is less than 17 years of age for daycare requirements. That's the current definition.
Yes, sir.
Okay, in the rewrite here, you've got a child, you've got a minor, and a juvenile, and you've got an adult. Are those all defined someplace?
That would fall under the state definition that governs that.
Okay, well, once again, I think this is all a laudable thing, but it just seemed like maybe if there was some sort of a problem later on in these things, if we've got a child defined now, then do we have a child, minor, juvenile, and adult properly defined later on in case there's a problem that comes up? That was the question. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Right. And those are all defined by the state, and the code, and basically our text amendment refers back to that.
So it is defined somewhere. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? All right. If the applicant will please come forward, or is that necessary?
That
Not
would be me or Will.
Okay.
So-
So I don't know if there's anything, I don't think there's probably anything else you
No.
want to share with us
Yep.
about it.
No,
Okay. So is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this? And I see no one. Is there anyone who would like to speak against? And there is no one. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. King.
Case regarding REZN 02190219, text amendment change to the UDO. I make a motion that we approve it as written.
And do I have a second? Mr. Kenner. All of those in favor, please raise your right hand. It is unanimous, so this will go forward as a recommendation for approval. Thank you. And lastly, we have a special exception. This is EXCP-12-18-2251. This is a request for special exception use at 3019 North Lumpkin Road. The current zoning is RMF1, which is residential multifamily 1. The proposed use is a boarding house. Charles Wright is the applicant, and this property is located in Council District 3, Huff. Mr. Renfro?
Yes, ma'am. Access is or will the type of street providing access to the use be adequate to serve the proposed special exception use? North Lumpkin Road will provide adequate access for a boarding house. This section of North Lumpkin Road is a minor arterial road. Traffic and pedestrian safety is or will access into and out of the property be adequate to provide for traffic and pedestrian safety, the anticipated volume of the traffic flow, and access by emergency vehicles. Access into and out of the property in question will provide for adequate traffic and pedestrian safety, and emergency vehicles will have adequate access into the principal structure and accessory use. Adequacy of public facilities are or will public facilities such as school, water, sewage, sewer utilities, police, and fire protection be adequate to serve the special exception use. Services such as water, sewer, utilities, police, and fire protection will be adequate and serve the proposed use at this location. Protection from adverse effects are or will refuge, service, parking, and loading areas on the property be located or screened to protect other properties in the area from such adverse effects as noise, light, glare, or odor. The property is surrounded by other RMF and GC uses. Parking service and refuge should be adequate and provided as stated within the UDO. Noise, light, glare, and odor should be limited due to the nature of the location. Hours of operation. Will the hours and the manner of the operation of the special exception use have no adverse effects on the other properties in the area? The hours of operation for this will not have an adverse impact on the neighboring properties in this area. Compatibility. Will the height, size, or location of the building or structures on the property be compatible with the height, size, character, or location of the buildings or other structures on the neighborhood properties? The structure's height, size, and location should match the uses found in other RMF properties. The location surrounded by single-family residential uses. Council district is 3 Huff. 55 property owners within 300 feet of the property have been notified by mail of the proposed special use, exception use. The planning department received 5 phone calls and emails regarding the rezoning. The 5 responses were in opposition, and there's no additional information.
Any particular reason they were in opposition?
They were just concerned because previously there had been another boarding house allowed to operate in that area, and it wasn't necessarily run in the correct manner. And they didn't want the same thing to happen at this location.
Gotcha, thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions for Mr. Renfro regarding the staff report? No. All right, is the applicant here? No. If you'll come forward and state your name and address and give us a brief overview.
Okay, first I'm hard of hearing. I can't hear very well.
Okay.
My name is Charles Wright. I stay at 3019 North Lumpton Road, and I have a house where I'm living at. It's a large house. I have 3 empty bedrooms. I live by myself. I want to rent them out to people. I'm retired from work to help me with my income.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions for the applicant, for Mr. Wright? Anybody have a question? No questions? All right, we have no one in the audience, so I'm not going to ask if there's anyone that would like to speak in favor or against it since we don't have anybody here. Do I have a motion or hear a motion amongst the commissioners? Mr. Brandon?
Sure. In the case of EXCP-12-18-2251, request for a special exception use at 3019 North Lumpkin Road, the proposed use is a boarding house, and subject to any appropriate conditions, I move that we approve the special exception.
All right, do I have a second? All right, I've got a second from Mr. Kenner. All of those in favor, please raise your right hand. It is unanimous, so we will recommend for this for approval, and thank you for coming before us, Mr. Wright. So that's all of our cases. I do have actually 2 bits of new business. I would like to make sure that the public is aware that we have a public meeting that will be held Thursday, February the 28th, to discuss the recently proposed text amendment to allow wellness and fitness facilities with a special exception in the historic district. This came before us at the last Planning and Advisory Commission meeting. The purpose of this meeting will be to hear your concerns and answer any questions related to this proposal. The meeting will be held at the CCG Annex, which is located at 420 10th Street in Columbus, on the ground floor conference room, and it will be from 5:30 until 7. Again, that's February 28th, and this will be on our website. Mr. Dudley.
Does the commission have any role in that meeting? We've already made our recommendation on the request for the text amendment, but are we supposed to be there in case people have questions about our decision, or?
Unless Mr. Johnson's going to correct me, my understanding is no. I mean, if you want to be there as a private citizen, you're welcome to come, but we don't have an actual role, and that's usually where Mr. Jones or Mr. Johnson come forward and hold a meeting and funnel questions with the public.
Yeah, Historic
Thanks.
Columbus has asked for
Clarification.
I'm sorry, I have not had enough coffee, I don't know this. A material change to what you all heard
Gotcha.
back in December, January, whenever it was. So it will come back here.
Right.
So you will hear it again. So if you want to be there next Thursday, again, it would not be as a commission member, it would
As a
be as a
private
citizen, and just, I would not participate, but you're welcome to listen.
So the text amendment might come back?
It is coming back.
It is coming
It is
to
coming
you.
back
Okay.
to us, yeah.
All
with-
right. Okay, thank you.
So you'll have this public hearing, you'll have PAC again, and you'll have first reading again. So there will be 3 more public hearings on this issue.
I don't want you to leave the mic yet, because I want to bring up just another point of clarification. Every year, at some point, we as commissioners have a case come forward where we have an applicant that reaches out to us individually and wants to meet with us privately to discuss an upcoming application. And I know, Mr. Johnson, you and Mr. Jones, and I think Mr. Renfro have all advised us in the past that that's not a good idea. We are not supposed to meet with applicants individually. I think you've encouraged us more than anything to just have people email us their questions or concerns, not even have a phone conversation. And that's happened again. We have 2 cases coming up where I know I've been contacted individually. I know some of these commissioners have. And I just want you to reemphasize to the commissioners what the rule is here so that we're all on the same page, because there's been some questions and just some confusion about what we can and can't do.
Yeah, and you're correct. You just don't want to put yourself in a situation where it comes back and bites you later. Legally, y'all are covered by the city, but if it's something that the city says, boy, you really stepped out there and you're on your own now, you don't want to be in that situation. So y'all are doing everything fine. I know Bobby had the same response that you did,
Right.
and that's the appropriate response.
Well, and I have another email this morning, and I know we as commissioners are not allowed to meet with each other individually, so I would, you know, so I would think it'd be the same thing. So I just want to make sure that we're all.
Well, as long as 5 of you don't get together.
Well, true, but I mean, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page in our understanding that if an applicant or even a citizen wants to meet with us privately or have a conversation on the phone about a case, we're really not supposed to be doing that. It needs to be done in writing through email. So, is there any other new business?
Well, I do have.
Yes.
Can you post the substantive change for the text amendment into Trello
I
for
can.
us? Or if it's not there already?
It hasn't been
Officially.
officially adopted right now. What is proposed, which I'm waiting to hear back from internally, is the building must be 10,000 square feet, and which really, to my knowledge, gets us down to only 2 buildings in the historic district.
And then parking.
And it must be an existing building, meaning you can't tear down something and build
Build a
this.
10,000 square foot.
And parking is
Parking
covered
provisions.
under the UDO, so whatever's required of a health and
Right.
fitness facility would have to meet those requirements. But again, nothing's official yet. So as soon as we get something handed down, we'll put it on Trello.
Mr. Reese.
Madam Chair, question of clarity, and I'm glad you brought this subject up because I've even been pulled to the side at public
Yeah.
events and people have begun to talk in which, I just want to make sure there's no harm in listening. As long as I don't make any definite statements or state my stance on something or my opinion, it's okay if I listen to someone publicly?
You're going to get stopped in the street,
Yeah.
grocery store, church, you name it, just like we do, just
Yeah.
like counselors do.
just
Facade board
can't-
members walking the streets of downtown are going to get stopped. So, yeah, that's just part of the deal.
And usually the pat answer that I've been given is I say, I can hear you all day long, but if you're looking for me to give you my opinion, unfortunately, I can't do that. You know,
Well, and I certainly agree with that,
Yeah.
but I just don't want no one in the public to think that we're
You can't
ignoring
listen.
them.
And that's a
or,
good clarification.
You know,
Absolutely.
and as long as I can listen, I don't mind listening, because I want people to have the platform to
Right.
have their voices heard.
And, you know, oftentimes when that's happened in those, I think another thing that might be prudent amongst commissioners is if you do have people pulling you aside in the public that want to share, shoot an email out to the rest of the commission so that we all kind of have an idea of, we don't need to know the details of the conversation, but if you have someone that's concerned, it might be helpful to share that as well. But that's a good point, because we do want to be good servants to the public. Anything else, guys?
That's it.
All right, well, we are adjourned. Thank you.